Grogu and the Time Gate Part 1. The Razor Crest hovered silently above the ruined surface of an ancient world known as Typhonus, a planet forgotten by most and feared by the few who still remembered its legends. Mando guided the ship carefully through a storm of golden dust and lightning that shimmered strangely, as if time itself was bending within the clouds. Grogu pressed his face to the cockpit glass, his big black eyes widening at the flashes of ghostly structures that seemed to appear and vanish within the storm. When they landed, the air was thick and still. The landscape was littered with ancient stone rings, each carved with symbols that pulsed faintly when Grogu looked at them. "Stay close, kid," Mando said, stepping out and checking his scanner. "We refuel, we rest, we leave. No wandering." Grogu tilted his head, pretending to listen, but his curiosity was already working against that command. As Mando unloaded supplies, Grogu followed a soft hum that echoed from between two massive pillars. It wasn't sound exactly, it was more like the Force itself was singing to him, a melody of memory and power. In the center of a cracked platform stood a glowing orb set into a pedestal, its surface swirling like liquid glass. Grogu reached out a small hand, feeling a pull deep in his chest, an invitation. The moment his fingers touched the orb, everything exploded into light. Time unraveled around them like threads of silk caught in a storm. Mando spun toward the flash, shouting Grogu's name, but the air itself folded inward. In an instant, the Mandalorian and the child were torn apart, thrown into two different moments in the galaxy's long history. Grogu tumbled through visions, the great temple of Coruscant blazing in sunlight, clone troopers marching, Jedi younglings training. He landed with a thud inside a wide marble hall filled with echoes of voices long gone. Confused but unharmed, he peeked from behind a fallen column. In front of him stood beings in robes, Jedi living and breathing, their lightsabers at their sides. A young Jedi Knight noticed him first. "By the stars, what are you?" she whispered, kneeling. Grogu cooed uncertainly. Something about the place felt familiar, safe, yet unreal. The Jedi sensed the Force radiating from him, strong and ancient. "You shouldn't be here, little one," she said kindly. "Let's get you to the council." Meanwhile, far from Grogu, Mando crashed into reality on a battlefield. The smoke of the Clone Wars thick in the air. Blaster fire streaked above him as clone troopers shouted orders. "What in the..." he muttered, ducking behind cover. His comlink crackled, but Grogu's signal was gone. The only sound that reached him was the distant hum of something powerful, something that shouldn't exist yet. Determined to find Grogu, Mando fought his way across the chaos. The troopers mistook him for a bounty hunter working for the Separatists, forcing him to disarm and flee through the wreckage. He scavenged parts from a downed walker, rigging his wrist scanner to detect the unique energy signature of the Force artifact. "Hang on, kid," he muttered through clenched teeth. "I'm coming." Back in the Jedi Temple, Grogu sat surrounded by curious Padawans. They offered him small food cubes, which he happily devoured, earning giggles from the younglings. The Jedi Masters studied him with interest. One of them, an elderly Togruta, placed a hand above his head and frowned. "This one, he carries echoes of the future. I sense conflict, sorrow, and the Mandalorian creed." The other Masters exchanged uneasy looks. As they debated his origin, Grogu's small ears twitched. He felt Mando's fear far away, like a faint vibration in the Force. The orb's song was still whispering to him, calling him back to where it began. Grogu reached out instinctively, closing his eyes. The air rippled and lights dimmed. The Masters gasped as the child vanished before their eyes, leaving only a swirl of light behind. He fell again through time, this time into darkness. When his feet touched solid ground, the stars were gone, replaced by the cold gray corridors of an Imperial Star Destroyer. Alarms blared, stormtroopers shouted, and the smell of burning metal filled the air. Grogu ducked behind a console as an officer barked orders. "Find the intruder." Mando was closer now, his scanner locked onto the same energy reading, strong, unstable, shifting in space and time. He broke into the hangar bay of the same ship moments later. "Blaster ready, Grogu," he shouted. A small head peeked out from behind a crate. For a brief second, relief washed through both of them before another surge of light split the deck open like a wound in reality. The time gate had followed them. The orb reappeared, spinning wildly in the air, the cracks along its surface glowing like molten gold. The ship's gravity distorted, pulling debris and troopers into a spiraling vortex. "Don't touch it," Mando yelled, but Grogu, sensing the chaos, reached out with both hands, using the Force to stabilize the artifact. For a moment, everything stopped. Silence. Then, as if the galaxy itself exhaled, the vortex collapsed inward, sucking both of them into the heart of the gate. Mando grabbed for Grogu, and this time their hands met. But instead of pulling them home, the gate flared again, showing flickering visions, planets burning, Jedi falling, the Death Star rising, and a future still unwritten. They tumbled through centuries, spinning past wars and peace alike, until at last they crashed onto a quiet world bathed in orange light. The ground was covered in crystal sand, the air humming softly. Mando staggered to his feet, clutching Grogu. "You okay, kid?" he breathed. Grogu blinked and nodded faintly, ears drooping from exhaustion. Mando looked around, confused. The landscape was beautiful but unsettling. Massive stone statues of Jedi and Sith alike surrounded them, their faces eroded but their presence heavy with power. And in the distance a faint blue glow pulsed within another archway. The time gate, reactivated. Waiting. He sighed heavily. Looks like we're not done yet, Grogu cooed softly, pointing toward the light. Mando glanced down at him. Yeah, I know, kid, but this time, we're going through it together. They approached the glowing arch as shadows moved within its surface, familiar shapes, distant echoes of what might come next. Grogu clutched Mando's glove tightly as the energy swirled around them. And then, in a single blinding flash, they stepped forward into the unknown. Grogu and the Time Gate Part 2, the light swallowed them whole. For a few long seconds, Mando couldn't breathe, couldn't even tell if he still existed. Then the ground hit him like a hammer, and he found himself kneeling in a forest that shimmered like glass. Every leaf glowed faintly blue, and the air vibrated with whispers that didn't come from any voice. Grogu floated gently down beside him, landing softly in a pile of luminous moss. Mando stood, scanning the strange terrain. Where are we? He muttered. His helmet sensors flickered in confusion. The readings made no sense. The planet's rotation, gravity, even the air pressure were fluctuating as if the laws of physics couldn't decide what they wanted to be. Grogu tilted his head, his ears twitching. You feel that too, huh? Mando said quietly. Feels wrong. In the distance, the trees parted into a vast clearing where time itself seemed frozen. Hovering above the ground was the broken time gate, fragments of the glowing orb spinning around it like slow-moving moons. Standing beneath it was a figure cloaked in dark silver armor, sleek, ancient, and humming with energy. When the figure turned, its faceplate mirrored Mando's own. The armored stranger's voice echoed through the clearing. I knew this day would come. Mando raised his blaster. You talk like you know me. The figure tilted its head. I am you, or what remains of you. This place, this moment, it's where the gate ends. You came here before. You never left. Grogu looked between them, eyes wide. The force rippled like a heartbeat. Mando's grip tightened on his weapon, but deep inside, doubt gnawed at him. He had seen enough impossible things to know this could be true. The figure stepped closer and Mando saw that its armor bore scars, identical to his own, only older, worn by time. You opened the gate to stop the Empire's future, the older Mando said, but the cost was being trapped outside time. Now you've returned to finish what I couldn't. The orb pulsed violently. Grogu flinched, feeling the force tremble. The gate was dying, its power unraveling reality around them. Mando lowered his blaster slowly. Then help me fix it. The older version shook his head. It's beyond fixing. It feeds on the force. Someone must take its place to stabilize the loop, or everything we've seen, everything you loved, will vanish. Grogu stepped forward, eyes glowing faintly. No, Mando said immediately. Not you. But Grogu only blinked at him, calm and certain. The older Mando looked down at the child. He's stronger than either of us understand. The gate called to him because it recognized him. He's the key. Suddenly, the forest shuddered. Cracks of light split the sky, showing glimpses of other Time Star destroyers burning, Jedi meditating, planets forming in reverse. Mando grabbed Grogu and held him close. We'll find another way. The older Mando placed a hand on his shoulder. There isn't one. Grogu looked up at his guardian, eyes full of trust. He reached out with the force, and the orb's fragments began to slow, circling him like tiny suns. Mando's HUD flooded with warnings. The energy was spiking to catastrophic levels. Kid, stop, he shouted. Grogu only smiled faintly. Then Mando felt something, words not spoken but felt deep inside his chest. It's okay, Dad. A beam of light shot upward, freezing the collapsing forest in mid-motion. The two Mandalorians were thrown backward as Grogu floated into the center of the gate, surrounded by streams of golden energy. The older Mando's armor began to fade like smoke. He's doing it, he said quietly. He's resetting the flow. Mando fought to stand, reaching for Grogu. No, come back. The energy burned against his armor as he forced his way forward. But before he could reach him, the light burst outward, flooding everything in sight, and then nothing. When Mando opened his eyes, the world was silent. The trees were gone, replaced by open desert under twin suns. The gate was gone too, only faint scorch marks in the sand hinting it had ever been there. For a horrible moment, he thought Grogu was gone as well. Then a small groan came from behind him. Grogu sat in the sand, blinking groggily, holding what looked like a small silver crystal, the last piece of the orb, still glowing faintly. Mando fell to his knees in relief. Kid, he pulled Grogu close, helmet resting against the child's head. Never do that again. Grogu burbled softly, offering the crystal with both hands. Mando sighed. Yeah, I know. You saved us. They walked for hours through the quiet desert, the sun setting behind them. Mando didn't know what world they were on or what time they'd landed in, but somehow, it didn't matter. The galaxy felt lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted. That night, they made camp under the stars. Mando cleaned his armor in silence while Grogu sat on a rock, staring at the crystal. You think it's still dangerous? Mando asked. Grogu shook his head, then tucked it into his robe like a toy figures. Mando muttered. He looked at the horizon, watching the twin moons rise. You know, kid, he said softly, I don't understand half of what just happened. but I'm proud of you. Grogu cooed and climbed into his lap, curling up against his chest. The Mandalorian wrapped his cloak around them both, the night wind whispering across the sand. As Mando's visor dimmed and sleep took him, Grogu opened one eye and glanced at the stars. For the briefest moment, a faint shimmer appeared, a ghostly reflection of the time gate high above, flickering once before fading into the void. Grogu smiled to himself, a quiet, knowing grin. Maybe time wasn't something to fear after all. Maybe, just maybe, it was something to play with carefully. End of Grogu and the Time Gate Part 2.